Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coach Program. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. I'm a personal development coordinator, and I assist people ready for improvement in developing their personal and professional goals into tangible, focused, and achievable plans of action. And this is a podcast, this product is something that I use to help achieve that mission, along with various other things. Now, what we do in this podcast is we give a 10-minute lesson, just 10 minutes of lesson. Podcast may go a little longer with some of the housekeeping here and there that you can take along with you after we're done and apply to your life, whether it's personal or professional. You can take the lesson that we're going through here and evaluate it and use it right away. And if it's something that you don't think you can use right away because it's something that you're seemingly doing right now, something that's not quite working, but something that's in the plans, that's more proof that what you're doing, what you're working towards, is a solid plan. We are doing our best to make sure that you know that you are supported and you are backed up by what you're doing, and we want you to know that you're doing great in that process. For more information about this podcast and how to contact me for more help, check out the website 10minutelifecoach.com. Now, as we record this, it's a weird week, start to the week, end of a weekend. Over the weekend, we had the death of Adam West, TV's Batman, or original Batman, I should say, from the 60s kitschy comic with lots of colors and the pow and the bang and all that stuff. He died at the age of 88 after a brief battle with leukemia, of course, known for being the superhero from TV, coming out of the comic pages live. He's done plenty of superish things since then, and lots of animated things, being a voice in many different TV shows and parodying himself and what he did back in the 60s as Batman, but of course, always saying that his Batman is the original and obviously much more fun because it brought to life a comic book character that brought joy to lots of kids and older kids for many, many years. About 4 generations of kids are getting their Batman on by watching a guy in some funny colored things, fighting a guy with green hair and a guy in a top hat. Also, today is the 6th day of the trial for Bill Cosby. He's being going on trial for the first time, being sued in a rape case. This is actually a retread of a case from about 4 or 5 years ago. Today is the 6th day of the trial. The defense had all last week, the prosecution had all last week. The defense had today, called one witness, and called it a case. So we'll have this thing come to a jury fairly soon, and we'll, of course, may or may not know the answer to this question by the time this gets aired in its actual real time. But today we're talking about heroes, as you would think, because we look at Adam West, who played a cartoon hero and essentially played just a regular cool guy in many things from here on out. And then Bill Cosby, who was a hero to his community, a hero to a lot of people, and a man that a lot of people looked up to in his business, his industry of acting and comedy, until we found out the hero wasn't quite the hero we thought. Now, the one thing that happens to all of us, and one thing that all heroes have to deal with, and all of us who worship people as heroes, and we do, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, we have to deal with the fact that our heroes die. The people we look up to die, they go away, they disappear, they no longer are seen anymore. Sometimes we're doing this as a character of some sort, a character in a show or some sort of role a person plays that goes away, the show gets canceled and they go away from the character. Sometimes, as we talk about with Adam West himself, the heroes die. The person actually dies. If we're lucky, the hero gets to get old, which is another issue. Heroes get old and they aren't as heroic as they used to be. Adam West still doing plenty of great things, but not quite as active as he was back in his Batman days. And plenty of sports athletes, lots of guys that you followed as a kid, as you get older and start feeling your bones ache and your muscles get tense, they do the same thing. And at some point in time, they can't perform the way they could, especially the ones that were there performing while you were a kid, much older. You'll notice they get older and a bit more slower before you do, and you start to lose the luster. Sooner or later, you get that luster back as you think about them in the glory days and compare them to the kids of these days, of course. But your heroes will die. Your heroes will also get old if you're lucky. Some of them die young, which is a whole other thing. But the real sad part about having hero worship is your heroes may fail you. It's pretty much a given that at some point in time, whatever you think that person is heroic for, whatever you're looking up for that person for, will be overshadowed by some failing in some other end of their lives. Think of all the recent sports heroes, all the recent big sports stars that are dealing with all sorts of just ridiculous personal life issues. Some of them are having relationship issues. Some of them are having serious issues with claims of domestic abuse and violence in those relationships. Some of them are having relationship issues with their kids, and some of those are violent as well. Some of them are just poor role models in general, just aren't putting up anything near what you expect to be a good image, but don't care because they've got the money and they can pay for whatever they want to, or they just don't flat out care. And if we go back to the Bill Cosby example, Bill Cosby, essentially all my lifetime, was a person to look up to, even beyond my lifetime, in the business of comedy, in the business of media, in the business of acting, the roles he did, being a philanthropist, being a man of the community, being a mentor to so many people, only to find out he had been accused of harassing and raping women for longer than I've been alive, all the while being heralded as a chief in the community for everyone. He was America's dad thanks to his Cosby Show program, and now we are dealing with some very, very real realities that things may not have been as good as we thought they were. Our hero was fallible. He was human. He gave in to a temptation that was just, to him, insatiable, but to most people, seemingly just incredulous, impossible to deal with, stepping beyond the boundaries of good taste, stepping beyond the boundaries of just being a decent human being. Now, the trial's still going on, and I'm not privy to any of the actual testimony because I'm not in there, but I do know that when these things happen, and so many of the things happen, so many of the allegations coming out there, that would make one believe that something along the lines went wrong. Somewhere along the lines, our hero failed and somehow got caught up into something. Is it as bad as it's being played out to be? Who knows? And in many cases, who cares? Here's the deal. It's okay to have heroes. It's great to have heroes. But it's also necessary to have your heroes grounded in some sort of reality that they are not infallible. Your heroes can let you down, and in many cases will let you down without any thought of it all, because they have their own lives that aren't necessarily attached to you and hero worship. Your heroes will get old. Your heroes will fade. Your heroes' powers, or the ability to draw in a crowd, will lessen with time. At some point in time, they'll be replaced by other heroes, and for younger generations, they'll be replaced completely as they are following even younger heroes. And of course, your heroes will die. They will go away. They will fade into oblivion. They will cease to exist. And you're left with a hole as to what to do with that gone hero. Well, there's a simple answer to what to do with that gone hero, whether they've just failed you in some sense or whether they actually have gone off to a better place. It is to be a hero yourself. It's to leave a mark of your own. It's to push the boundaries so that you can be super or superior or whatever word it is you want to use. The biggest thing about your heroes going away is that if they inspired you to do anything, whether they eventually faded, failed, or passed on, then they did their job as a hero, even if it was reluctant and just not in the plan. The best way to honor a hero and to fill that hole of the heart from a lost hero is to do something heroic yourself. Doesn't take a lot of might, doesn't take a lot of strength. It just takes mostly the effort, the energy, some time, and the willingness to step up to the plate. So the question is, as you see your heroes fade away, are you ready to step up to the mantle and step in for those heroes? And that is the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Life Coach. If you enjoy this podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it, please stop by wherever it is you get podcasts from. It's crazy where they come from these days. Apple and iTunes is still the most popular, at least in the way people promoting it. But Many people don't listen to this on an Apple device. Many people do listen still on their computer. And, of course, Android is actually the most populated phone user in the world because they make cheaper handsets, to be honest. So however you listen to the podcast, wherever you get it from, we would love a rating and a review of how well we're doing so we can keep doing as well, if not better, or how well we're not doing so we can do better, because that's the whole point. For more information about my other projects, it's easy to find me at jclevelandpayne.net. You can contact me at jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. You can also, of course, contact this podcast directly at 10minutelifecoach.com. We thank you so much for being a part of what we have going on here. This podcast, over 100 episodes, and it took a while, took a big chunk of time to kind of search the world, walk the earth, if you will, and come back to something that I think is doing good for hopefully many people. You can remind me how good I'm doing or how not good I'm doing with your comments, direct or via the comments to the podcast features. If you would, and if you do like it, share it with a friend. Tell somebody that you like that we're doing something good here. Have them listen to a couple and hopefully help us gain a greater audience. If you're looking to find me in other places, make sure you check out my website and see some other things I got going on as well. And in the meantime, just make sure you keep on listening, because I need each and every one of you to keep things going, to keep me pushed, be my heroes, to know that I am doing something for each and every one of you. So subscribe, and then tune in next week for another episode of the 10-Minute Life Coach.